Let's see, should be on now. Good. So, well, welcome to our first, not just our first New York Softland Partners meetup, but our first meetup anywhere. So I've brought a beer to the occasion. Brought a Corona beer.
There you go.
Nice.
Oh,
that
yes.
name?
I have wine.
You have wine. Excellent. I'm glad I'm not drinking alone. I just opened this. So this is really, really cool. Number one, that you're all here, and I think more will join us as we go. I did hear from a few folks today who said, last minute things came up, as you'd expect. It's obviously a pretty weird time for all of us in terms of just the the state of the world in terms of business being closed. And I know, Francis, you've had to deal with all the companies, your international companies, going through your accelerator and all the wild things going on with that. But nonetheless, here we are. We would love to certainly do this in person, and as soon as we get the all clear, we'll certainly we're going to be doing these in person. We'll talk more about the frequency as we get into this. We have kind of talked about doing it monthly, and certainly think of this as a beta. So we very much want your feedback. It's really an important part of this. The other thing I would encourage as a just a thought for tonight is we want to get somewhat the atmosphere as if we were all in the room together. So we've shared the list of who's going to be at the meeting tonight. Obviously some people won't be here, but feel free to text anyone privately. Feel free to use the chat either to text everyone or individuals. But we want to make sure there are those sidebar opportunities if you want to connect with specific people individually, get email addresses, get phone numbers, whatever. We didn't want to assume you want your email address shared until obviously once you're a member, all that stuff gets shared, but we didn't want to assume any guests wanted that stuff shared. So in any event, what we want to do is we'll go around first and do introductions, and obviously we have more of an agenda than just the introduction, so we're going to want to keep it fairly brief. So if you would, we'll just do a name, company, and like roughly 10 to 15 seconds on what you do. Let's not get into detail, but just kind of high level, and maybe who you serve. But again, the whole thing in about 30 seconds, if you would. So I'm going to do my best to just kind of scroll through everybody here, but if I may come back to you or ask if I missed anyone here at the end. But Jackie, since you were on first, you want to go and do your self-introduction?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here and actually see people's faces. My name is Jackie Torsellini. I'm the principal at Global Growth Strategies. And on the import side, I help companies understand their regulatory compliance needs and help them navigate what is going to be the best market entry for them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jackie. And Tomas.
Yeah, I'm Thomas Novak. I'm working at the Hungarian Consulate General in New York, and I'm responsible for 3 different things. The first is supporting Hungarian startups coming to the United States. The second is university-to-university cooperation between Hungary and the United States. And the third thing is the supporting the Hungarian diaspora scientists and startups here.
Cool. Excellent. Alice, if you don't mind, we'll come to you in just a few minutes. Francis, do you want to go next?
Sure. Francis, I'm the CEO and Managing Director for Numa in New York. We have a soft landing accelerator program for international companies that are expanding to the US. And then we also run educational and innovation programming, mostly for international corporates as well, and helping them access the New York City ecosystem.
Cool. Thank you. You all are doing a great job in the intros. Thanks for keeping them real tight. Melanie, please, next.
Hi, I'm Melanie Fox. My company is Speech Fox. I coach accent reduction and presentation skills, and I help people who are non-native English speakers speak clear, confident English.
Fantastic. We'd expect your introduction to be really good. The bar is very high.
No pressure.
David.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Do I feel like I just disappeared here, or am I?
There you are.
Okay, I couldn't even see myself for a sec. Great. David Berkowitz, and really a pleasure being here, especially Bill, since we met at a Numa event. So Francis, great to reconnect with you, a proud mentor. Serial Marketer is my consultancy. I work with a lot of marketing and ad tech companies, and especially from overseas, and helping them accelerate in New York and get in front of brands and agencies.
Fantastic. Thank you. Mark, please.
Hey, Mark Fielding. I work for a company called Velocity Global. The easiest way to think of what we do is essentially to imagine an Airbnb for corporate infrastructure. And what we do via our network of corporations in 186 markets is allow startups to test their product or service in a new market to see if they get any traction before investing in setting up a corporation, getting all the accounting, etc., admin sorted.
Fantastic. And we met at an event in Portugal, which was so much fun.
Lisbon,
Absolutely. Yeah, very good. Sophie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sophie Lechner. My company is Global Commerce Education. I help mid-sized companies from abroad to set up in the US. I help them with strategy, with finding the right professionals to work with, lawyers, et cetera, facilitating that conversation, and cross-cultural differences to adapt their product and their marketing as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I see Linda next. Do you want to go, Linda? Your mic, there you go.
There we go. There we go. Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited that the guys over at Serial Marketers posted this because I am actually based in sunny Puerto Rico. I had actually made my way from Puerto Rico to New York and then meandered right back down. So I'm the founder of a consulting firm called What's Next Ventures, and our effort is to help companies through the trajectory of their growth strategy, from establishing a strong financial foundation to scaling, as well as establishing a global footprint. And of course, like many of you, I help companies come into the United States, but at the same time, I work with companies trying to expand outside of the US. Before I launched my company, had extensive experience throughout the Americas and Europe, and am leveraging that network and knowledge to help US companies go overseas.
Brilliant. Cool. Well, welcome. Thank you, Linda. And how about Connor Flynn?
Hey, my name's Connor. I'm the founder of Social Sector Network LLC, and we assist social enterprises. And then I do client services at Compliance Solution Strategies, and that company assists financial services entities.
Fantastic. Cool. Thank you so much. And is it Kayan?
It's Kanan.
Kanan, thank you.
So I run a company called InsurTech Advisors, which, as its name suggests, we advise and work with insurance companies, helping them connect with startup ecosystem.
Fantastic. Well, welcome, Kanan. I really appreciate it. And Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Cohen. Hey everyone, it's Jeffrey from ImageWorks. We are Connecticut-based digital marketing firm, and we focus on helping companies with their online lead generation.
Fantastic. Cool. Welcome, Jeffrey. And Brian, do you want to go next?
Sure, thanks. Everyone really is doing a great job with the short pitches. Very, very impressed. Well, hello to everyone on here that I know. Tomash, it's been a little bit, so I had the consulate and Rob and the rest. My name is Brian Frumberg. I'm the CEO and founder of Venture Out. We're going to be running a lot of webinars now, so we created a fancy backdrop for Zoom, which you can see. We are focused on bridging the gap between technology startups and innovators around the world and opportunities available here in New York City. We've been doing this since 2012. We've accelerated over 1,000 companies that have raised over $2 billion and created over 13,000 jobs in the US and around the world. We work with about 15 foreign governments on recurring programs, bringing about 200 companies into New York City a year. And this has been a super interesting time as someone who's mostly focused on Europeans coming to the US, which is currently illegal. So anyway, hello to everyone on the call.
Cool. Welcome, Brian. Lance, do you want to go next?
Sure, that's a perfect follow to Brian. I'm CEO and founder of Alliance Technologies, and Alliance is a C-level executive management fractional team that focuses on mainly European but international businesses in the advanced manufacturing sector, bringing them to the US or redirecting them, usually with an equity investment.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Lance. How about Prashanthi? Do you want to go next? I hope I'm pronouncing your name at least a little bit close.
You're perfect, actually. That's the perfect pronunciation. Thanks, Bill.
Sure.
Hi, folks. This is Prashanthi Reddy. I'm sorry I'm not on video, but so I'm an immigration attorney based out of New York City, Manhattan, and I could help with people looking to immigrate to the United States. If they're looking to open offices here, and we could file L1s or Es or EB5s or H1s if they're looking to send their employees here. So yeah, that's what I do, immigration attorney. Thanks.
Fantastic. Welcome, Prashanthi. And how about Rob? Do you want to go next?
Sure. Great to be on here. A lot of familiar faces on this chat. So, Rob Napoli, I'm principal of Hapday Group. Hapday Group is an operational consultancy that helps startups and scale-ups launch and scale their businesses here in the U.S. Effectively have three core products: sales, channel development, so acting as a sales team for hire, hiring strategy, and capital raising and fundraising, as well as do a number of skill-based and growth-based workshops for mid and large size companies. And I also mentor for a number of the accelerators partners on here. So yeah, it's a quick overview of me, and happy to be on and seeing you on. Brian, I love the background.
I like your poster, Rob.
Yeah, it's super apt. I've got two of them for after yesterday.
Oh, brilliant!
For everyone that's got a drink, cheers. By the way, I know
Yeah,
that was part of the assignment for tonight.
Yes, I actually have Corona beer, so just
Beautiful.
Very on brand.
Exactly. Well, it's all about marketing, as they say, right? So there are a couple of people on with just phone numbers. Who have I not recognized? If you would please introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Daniel. I work for the Australian government here in New York. I'm a business development director. Essentially, I help Australian companies expand to the US, focused on New York, and in particular, technology companies. I've met a few of the people that are on this call. I'm familiar with some of your businesses.
Well, welcome, Daniel. It's great to have you on the call. I was actually watching the 18-footer World Championships in Sydney early this morning, so I felt like I was in Australia today.
Yeah, the weather isn't the same, but
right. Yeah, it's actually not that nice in Sydney now. Strange.
It isn't. It actually isn't. Yeah. Nice to meet everyone that I haven't met.
Thanks, Daniel. Is there anyone else or anyone that we've missed? Well, cool. It is fantastic to have you all here. So what we're going to do, we've got a couple of agenda items. We want to make sure there's time to sort of let this breathe as well if there are conversations that want to happen, but we want to get into a few things. So as I mentioned off the top, this is literally our first chapter that we're opening globally. So it's literally our first meetup anywhere. And so we're really delighted. And in fact, the instigator of this is Alice Chin. And I'm going to have her introduce herself. I know several of you already know her, but she's volunteered to take on the chapter leading role for New York. And it actually, you can blame this on her. We are actually, as we've been forming this sort of global network, Alice has been kind of one of the folks that got involved very early and has really been a wonderful advocate. But on one of our calls, she said, hey, you know, would you mind if I just started up a meetup in New York? And we had already been kind of thinking of doing it, but as you know, it's sometimes really nice to have somebody nudge you in the right direction. So for those that know Alice, you know what a special person she is. She's just amazing, tons of energy, exceptionally competent, and but it's a pleasure to, if you guys wouldn't mind, can we give Alice a hand as the chapter leader in New York? So welcome, Alice. Do you want to kind of introduce yourself, especially for those that don't know you?
Sure. That's hard to live up to that introduction.
Oh, no, you already have.
Thanks, Bill. My name is Alice Chen. I'm the founder and CEO of Your Other Half, and we're a human resources consultancy focused on businesses with 2 to 99 employees based in the US and foreign companies opening their first US office. And we essentially can help just from, you know, hey, I need help drafting this email to my employee, all the way through to being your full service outsourced HR department. And we really enjoy working with foreign companies, particularly from Asia and Europe, coming to the US and dealing with a trifurcate government and not understanding all the differences between all the compliance pieces, and it's a joy to work with those companies. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity to meet all of you and to further serve that community, and also hopefully to have some really fun New York meetups and really build this community. So thanks, Bill, for this opportunity.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for your leadership and your nudging, and keep nudging, because you know, I guess I'd really encourage you all. You know, we are very much in a formation stage, so you'll see things that we can do, and you know, obviously, like any organization, we deal with bandwidth. So if we can't do it right now, we'll figure out a way on the roadmap to evolve to you know, sort of a better and better place. So I want to do two things. I'll introduce myself, hopefully fairly briefly, and then introduce a little bit about what we're doing with SoftLand Partners, just real quickly. So we have a company that's called Meet. You'll see my background. And we help international companies exhibit at US trade shows. Particularly, we focus on B2B companies, and most of them come either from the technology, the health, energy, or government services space. And so we'll do anything from help them exhibit at a specific trade show and building an annual strategy and all of that, to doing all sorts of competitive intelligence, all in an in-person type way. So we've been around for about 6 years. And I've had the pleasure to meet a great number of you, and I certainly can't wait till we're meeting in person, hopefully when they sound the all clear signal sometime soon. So, you know, it's really from our business that the idea for SoftLand Partners came up, and this was roughly about 6 months ago. So we've kind of moved a long way in 6 months, but the sort of epiphany was, as we were looking sort of late summer at our current client list, we kind of came to the realization that 100% of our clients came to us as damaged children. And some of you have probably had this very same experience, where maybe you have clients that have made bad decisions before they met you. Maybe you have clients that got involved with some bad actors, or just people who, you know, didn't necessarily have the skills to help them. And so what we were, and as we talked to our peer group, folks like you, we found that our experience wasn't unique, that this was a kind of a normal problem with market entry, where you know, people have this, you know, it's hard enough in your own country to build great partnerships. What we're seeing and what we're finding is that it's considerably harder when you're crossing borders and crossing oceans. And so the whole idea of this group is to build a network of professionals, of service providers, and of trade organizations who are fully committed to the success of the market entry company. So everything we do, our full ethos, and those of you that have become members know you actually have to agree to put the interest of the market entry company first. But the whole ethos that we want to create is the success of that market entry company. So as we, whether it's provide our own services or as we make connections, our sole interest is in the success of that market entry company. And so, you know, ultimately, as we build this, and just so you understand kind of where we're going, we currently have members, certainly more in the US just because that's where we started, but we have members in the UK, in Moscow, in India, in Brazil, and some other countries. And there'll be meetups within the next couple of months. There'll be meetups in probably about 5 or 6, maybe 7 cities, including London and Sao Paulo, Brazil, LA. There'll be one in Boston in a couple of weeks. And so we really see this as a global movement. So whether you're working with companies that are going, out from New York or into New York or into the US or out of the US, there are definitely going to be networks and connections for you. I would say our two, as a platform, kind of our two first focus areas are to sort of build the marketplace, which means, we need to drive membership so that there's value in people coming, the market entry companies and the trade professionals coming to look for good, competent, relevant service providers to help with market entry. We also have a concierge service in that marketplace so that we can, obviously each of us has connections that go beyond what's going to be in the marketplace. And we have a private Slack channel for members so that we can easily socialize needs and opportunities. But we want to build a super vibrant marketplace to help those market entry companies find the best connections. And on the other side, in a parallel way, we're building these local meetups because we really feel strongly that part of our success is going to be to have sort of community density, so that we obviously want a strong community in New York and many other cities. We're hoping maybe 20 by the end of this year, but the idea being that not only can we have this global platform, but that we can have very strong local networks, where as a company comes into New York and they connect with Alice, and Alice is able to and they identify other things that they need, Alice is able to connect them out to other key resources, or coming to any of us, and us having a really good bullpen to be able to solve problems that go well beyond us. And the one thing I should mention, just so you understand a little bit about my background, my first business was building a networking organization. And so the one thing that I would just suggest, and I actually had a call today where this topic came up, and most of us think of networking in, as we look at each other in that, gosh, this is somebody that could refer prospects to me. And that may happen, and I certainly don't want to discourage that. But the much bigger value, and if I ask this group, and please respond to this, but if I ask this group, how many of you would say that your best leads come from your current or former clients? How many of you would say that, your current or former best clients? I see a few hands raising. And okay, good, that's excellent. And I unfortunately, I can't see all the screens at one time. But normally when I ask that in front of a room full of people, I usually see about like 95% of the hands say that your best leads come from current or former clients. Even if it's 80%, it's still a big number. So I would suggest your networking needs to drive that. So if you look at the network as a bullpen of resources for solving important problems for your client, then you become more memorable, you build a much richer and deeper relationship. And again, you may get leads from other channels. This doesn't preclude that. In fact, you're going to get much better leads if you're interested in solving important problems for your client. So in any event, just a quick thought on that. One other thing to mention, and we do have a pretty active roadmap, and we're certainly happy to add additional things to the roadmap. But one of the things that we're pretty excited about, and it's neat to have some of the trade organizations on the call as well, is with the advent of so many different delegations coming to New York and to the US, and also having so many conferences that are on this topic, One of the things that we can do that's very powerful, and it'll probably be 3 to 6 months before we stand it up, but is we can also develop a speakers bureau. So for those that build their reputation through public speaking, we can also be, I think, a really good channel for developing those opportunities, and certainly for the folks that trade professionals that are on the call. You should know that capacity is coming, and you can certainly use the network for that today, but there'll be a methodology and a way to easily connect to good speakers for the topics you're looking for. So you don't always have to go back to the same 3 people that are, that you always have talk. You can build some diversity and topic and whatnot. So, and I'm certainly happy to chat with anyone afterwards and share more on what we're doing. But I want to get to a couple of the folks that we're looking to spotlight tonight. And I know, Francis, we asked you to do a kind of a 7-minute spotlight on Numa. If you wouldn't mind, would love to give the floor to you and ask you to do that spotlight.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Super excited that this is happening and to be here. I mean, ever since we've been first chatting about, soft landing partners, it's like really exciting to see how many people are involved. And many of you I already know, mentor for Numa, so super excited. Great, so I'm gonna share my screen because I have a brief presentation. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Amazing.
This whole technology thing.
It's working. I like how now we're like forced to be digital. Awesome. So I'll go through this, quickly. And if obviously at the end, if people want to contact me separately for questions and things like that about what we do or how we do it or how we support, I'm happy to be a resource. I believe that, what we're doing is hard work and there's so many facets of it. And so if I can be a resource to any of you, happy to be. So what is Numa? Numa, we're a global education brand with a focus on programming for 2 main groups. One is international startups, and then we also work with multinational corporates. To date, most of our corporate clients have been internationally based as well in Europe and other places. Our main offerings are a 10-week soft landing accelerator that supports international companies with US market entry for early and growth stage startups. We run 2 to 4 day long learning expeditions for corporates that expose them to industry trends through programming and networking with industry experts and innovators. And then we also run executive training programs that are designed to upskill managers and employees on different workforce methodologies. We are originally a French-born company, so we've actually been operating in France for almost 20 years. We're one of the oldest accelerator and innovation brands in the world. But we opened up offices in New York City for a few key reasons, because it has a ton of economic activity. Many of our global portfolio and the 8 locations we used to operate in, some of them we're still in, some of them we aren't. A lot of the startups were inevitably looking to come to the US market to do business here. And New York City, as you all know, is a very vibrant ecosystem with lots of funding availability and quality, lots of corporate connections, which is also a big part of what we do to support the startups and the companies we work with. A little bit about us by the numbers. So we have a big focus on bringing together a fantastic network. There's several mentors on the call now. We have operated in 7 different countries. We have over 500 mentors and international experts. So a lot of what we do is driving those connections for the companies and creating those opportunities. We get over 1,000 startup applications per year, and globally we run over 150 different innovation projects. This is really where we see ourselves as the center of doing innovation for corporates, acceleration for startups, and we have a big focus now as well on education and thinking through workforces of the future. And really from our core, what we're doing with the startups is also teaching them on workforce practices. We're teaching them how to operate in the US and creating those connections. So this is really where the core of what we do is, and all of these pieces actually work together and help each other. some of the corporates in our network. And so a little bit of a zoom onto our acceleration program, because that's really where most of the soft landing happens. Our accelerator program is 10 weeks with a focus on most of our companies being around post-Series A. They're all non-US, so we don't support companies that are US-based. We've had 17 now different nationalities from around the world. So we've had a lot from Europe, India, a lot of South America, Mexico, Canada, very diverse. There's a lot of one-on-one support and coaching with both the Numa team and our EIRs, as well as curriculum that's dedicated to specific skill sets that they need for the US, such as sales, marketing, fundraising, and I'm sure many of you know this, but like, you know, startups from their in their home markets may have traction and sales, but a lot of times that's generated through their network and they don't yet have a process to really take that to a new market. So there's educational components to help them with that. We connect them with mentors and coaching, and then weekly sessions on key challenges that they're having. I started as the company originally as the program director, and I used to say my value was not in, having all of the answers for the startups, but is to be able to identify their challenge and connect them to one of the people in our network that did have the answer. This is a bit about our program structure. So within the 10 weeks, we have a big focus in the beginning on setup and immersion. It's where most of the sessions happen. It's much more intense. We're doing due diligence and understanding really what are those key challenges that they're having and what is the specific roadmap we're going to have for each of the companies. We do a lot of work identifying in-network sales targets. Most of these companies, when they come to the US, they do want to raise funding, but that's a secondary objective with us. It's really more about getting those connections to actually grow their business. We, in weeks 4 to 7, we're very focused on a lot of the educational components on, building their US team, understanding, their sales and marketing and fundraising strategies. And weeks 8 to 10, we are really focused on, continuing to monitor and iterate as they have new key learnings, and redefining the roadmap if need be. And then we also have a lot of key events as well. So we will do a demo day at the end of the program, which we call Industry Night, which is really targeted on not just getting VCs in the room, but corporates and the potential clients of the company. It's really about business development. There is also a VC breakfast where they pitch entirely to VCs. Unfortunately, because of coronavirus, we've had to iterate on all of those things for this program because we are in week 7 right now of a program, which is happy to talk about those challenges. But yes, that's how we structure typically a program.
30 seconds.
Okay, cool. These are our key activities: learning, networking, and selling. Our alumni, we've accelerated now around 50 companies in New York that are of that stage and size. This is our spring cohort. We have a lot in the retail tech space right now, as well as we have a fintech company and insurtech. Our team, I love them. Our acceleration program, again, on average, they've raised around 2.5 million, 17 different nationalities and counting. For our corporate programming, we've done a lot of work with Google, Samsung, IBM, a lot of large multinational corporates, and that's it.
Brilliant. Well, we got like 6 slides in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I can be a speed reader. I was a speed reader back in middle school.
Awesome stuff. I generally summarize what you do is I say you help companies enter the US and sell shit, but I don't know, that's just me.
I like it. That's super simple.
Oh, good stuff. Okay, so Tomas, are we ready to talk about the Consulate General of Hungary and what you guys are up to? Is that ready to go on that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm representing a governmental organization, so I have a little bit different perspective on these issues. And I have 2 points. The first is that as a consulate, we always saw the inflow of Hungarian startups coming to the United States one by one. So they just visit the consulate and they ask for help and support and network. They are very much interested in building networks in the United States, obviously, because they want to enter the market, but they don't not know really the market. How does it work? So this is the first thing what we do. Just we are trying to be involved in network like Bill's network. So this network. So it's very, very important for us. So we have got to know all of the guys who are involved in the ecosystem. So whenever a company is coming to us from Hungary and ask for assistance, we can offer them and suggest them somebody who might be interesting and useful. So this is the first thing. The second is that last year, with the support of the Hungarian government, we were able to launch a new program. In the previous years, it was always difficult to organize in a structured way the incoming startups. But last year, we established a new program, which is called the Business Development and Promotion Center in Washington, D.C. It's not in New York, but it's in Washington, D.C. It means that it's a soft landing program offers to a small number of Hungarian startups, generally for 7-8 companies. These companies are coming to the United States for either for 2 or 3 weeks or for a longer program for 3 months. What we want to do is to have an additional leg of this program, and this would be in the New York City. So last year we had the first group of the companies and we brought them into the New York City, and we were able to organize for them a very successful network event with the assistance of Bill. So that's the basic idea, that if the situation will be resolved, hopefully very soon, that we can continue this program. In that framework, we would like to bring these companies into the New York City for short visits or for longer programs, organizing them various events, networking events, and many additional programs.
That's fantastic. So just to ask you maybe a question or two, Tomas. One of the things that I saw when I met many of your companies is really the maturity and the quality of the companies that you're working with. They're quite good, but maybe you could tell folks some of the industries that typically are coming from Hungary to the U.S. Are there some more I guess stronger industries that you find are good exports from Hungary?
Yeah. Last year it became clear that basically we have 3 industries in which we are quite strong. The first is cybersecurity. We could organize several cybersecurity events in Washington, D.C. with the involvement of government, U.S. government people as well, because they were quite interested in that. So it was quite clear that cybersecurity is one of the fields which might attract big attention in the United States. The second is related to information technology. It's still something which can be interested also. And we saw many very promising companies coming to the United States. And the third is related to medical devices. It is also related to the fact that we have a very strong Hungarian scientific diaspora in the United States. And in my first sentence, just a couple of minutes ago, I mentioned to you that my task also to manage this Hungarian scientific diaspora. And it turned out that we are quite strong in various biomedical fields. So I think that these 3 industries are the most promising ones. So again, cybersecurity, some fields of the information technology, and biomedicine.
Oh, that's fantastic. And just one other question, that is, in the delegations that you've had so far and with the accelerator, are there particular services or support types or types of support that the companies are looking for most? What are they most eager for when they come in?
In fact, it's very different. What we saw that all of the companies, the Hungarian companies which came within the framework of this program, already had some operation in the United States. So they already knew something about this market. So they wanted to expand their activities. And because of they are operating in various sectors, so generally they need very different services. So I wouldn't say that they need just consulting or the marketing support. I would say that all of these, but definitely specifically it can be very different for individual companies.
Gotcha. So having a broad network is really important for you, it sounds
absolutely.
like.
Absolutely. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, cool. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you. And so there's context here, and obviously people are seeing that we both spotlighted a member and a partner. Just so you understand the sort of ecosystem we're looking to build is, if you think of the market entry company as the sort of the center of this, the support can be from a variety of places, but the two primary support areas are the partners that are helping from a government or trade organization standpoint to bring them into the country, and then on the service provider standpoint, what we would call a member, in terms of providing specific and discrete services, whether it's in marketing or legal or regulatory or any type of additional service. But the idea is that this ecosystem really includes all of the types of support that a market entry company might need, be it the trade organizations and trade professionals or the various service providers. So again, we're very open to comment, but we're sort of playing with this agenda, and hopefully you're finding it effective. So it's my great pleasure actually to pass the baton over to Alice, who's going to kind of take us through the needs and opportunities, and we'll talk about our next meetup, and then we'll have some open time for any discussions and connections that folks want to make as well. So Alice, the floor is yours, and I can put up the slides if you want.
I've got it. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, if you want to put up the slide, that's fine. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Sure.
So this next section is really an opportunity for us to hopefully have a little bit of community and talk to each other about what are the needs or opportunities that are going on, obviously, in our businesses right now. But, really, what is something that someone in this network could give to you, help you with, or what's an opportunity that you want to offer to this community? And I think, Bill, I don't know if you could take some notes as we go through this, and then
I would, and we're recording as well, so yes.
Amazing. So, and we'll also just send up some follow-up things, if people mention events or activities or needs or those kinds of things,
Sure.
hopefully we can share and then give everybody some resources to
Yeah, and I might just take
out.
down the slides while we're doing this so we can see each other.
Okay.
And then,
So I will start by sharing a potential resource that I hope everybody knows about right now. I just, having talked to my clients all day, I feel like people are really excited about some of these things. But New York City has some relief programs right now for small businesses. They're doing two really fantastic programs. One is a $75,000 loan at 0%. Up to $75,000 if you qualify, if your business is being affected. I imagine a lot of us, because we can't travel and people can't come here, probably having our businesses affected a little bit. And they're also doing up to 40% of 2 months of payroll expenses for companies with fewer than 5 employees in New York City. And that's a grant, it's not a loan. So it's just money the city's going to give you to try to reduce layoffs. So that's kind of a really, I think, interesting and amazing resource for New York City companies. And then the Small Business Administration is also doing some disaster relief loans related to the COVID-19 situation. And so if you can show that your revenue has been affected by 25% or more month over month, they would give you a loan. And those are, they're pretty low rates. It's up to prime +2, but prime is 0 now. So it's a very low interest rate loan. And so I think those are some resources that we're seeing are really providing an extraordinary amount of relief to a lot of our clients who we're talking to these days. I would also really just like to share something I think a lot of people don't know that New York State makes available, which is they have something called a work share program, where that essentially allows people to have their employees move to part-time and then get unemployment for the days when they're not working for their employer. So it's a really fantastic program that a lot of people are unaware of. And the reason why it's especially fantastic is because, like, if you take your employees to part-time without doing the work share and then later are forced to lay them off, that will actually reduce the amount of unemployment that they'll receive once you finally lay them off, because it's based on what you made the prior 26 weeks right before you went on unemployment. So if you do this work share program and you have to actually eventually lay them off anyway, they'll still end up getting their full unemployment. So it's kind of a way to be really thoughtful and caring about your employees during what can be a scary time for a lot of our clients. So just some resources I thought maybe you guys would like to know about, or maybe your communities would like to know about. Does anybody else have something they'd love to share? I'd love to hear about resources you want to share, or other opportunities you have for colleagues, or maybe a need that we can kind of work on together for a few minutes.
I can just add that I believe those SBA loans are up to $2 million.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's significant relief. It's not just a little thing.
Thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah,
and I
Jackie.
just want to mention that Connecticut also has the work share program. It goes up to 75% of the salary.
Yeah, fantastic.
Awesome. I have a comment. I'm really involved with Kiva here in Puerto Rico.
Oh, amazing.
And they are giving 0%, it's interest-free loans. And post Maria, and even now, they're giving like $10,000. So I highly encourage you guys to call your local Kiva representative, or call me, because we could do it from Puerto Rico. It's no big deal. It's the same organization. And it's 0%, and they are fast tracking. I worked with them post Maria, and they were fast tracking a lot of the organizations so that, you know, people could survive and keep their lights on. The other thing is that, I mean, I think from Puerto Rico, I mean, we're doing a lot of incentives to hire local, so that there's or to hire from Puerto Rico. So our tax base is really low. So if you guys have, let's say I'm now considered an Act 20 company, and any service that I export from Puerto Rico out is at a really low tax rate, which means that we could talk offline about some kind of partnerships or et cetera. I'm actually doing it with one of my clients in Washington State, where we're partnering, creating a bundle and reselling it out of my company here in Puerto Rico, so that we could be really price competitive, because our taxes are so low for this export of services. And then we become really competitive, aside the fact that our rates are really low to begin with. So it becomes a really, you know, nice way. And besides, you get to come visit. It's sunny and warm.
Thanks
and
so
we
much,
drink
Linda.
Bacardi.
It's like legal money laundering. I love that idea.
Absolutely. It's great.
Just wash all your taxes away through my
There you
company
go.
in Puerto Rico.
Damn straight, you know, got to win somehow.
Who else has something that they'd like to either share or ask for help on?
I've got a question and I've got to share too. Maybe I'll start with a question. So the question is like, not to sound pessimistic, but for interest-free loans, is payback just assuming goodwill? Because you can let that ride for forever without any penalty if it's truly interest-free. So like,
On the Kiva,
why don't they just call
yes.
it a grant?
Yeah.
On the Kiva, yes. But this is the thing, because a lot of the companies that usually it's micro firms, and it serves as an initial point for these really, really small companies to develop some kind of credit history, even though credit is not checked, if that makes any sense. And so for the most part, yes, they're paid. As a matter of fact, here in Puerto Rico, Kiva has become a really interesting entry point into the growing startup community that we have. So, you know, we have several, and I can talk about it at a different offline or at a different point, but we have a thriving tech community, biotech community, but also actual products and manufacturing, and they come in through Kiva.
Cool, Linda.
Yeah.
And then I think, Brian, with the federal loans, I think it's just the government feels like they know where you live and they can probably come after
Well,
you.
they'd have to change the terms, right? I mean, there's no enforcement if it's zero. Like maybe there's an enforcement mechanism, or maybe it's meant to be a grant, right, with the ones that want to pay back the fund. But I was just a question. I mean,
Yeah, like, do we know what the payback terms are on the federal loans? Like how
On the
long?
federal loans,
Payback?
I don't know the length. The New York City program, that's the other thing, is they're offering, it's a 10-year loan term, so it's kind of extraordinary. Up to 10 years.
Oh, up to 10 years. Wow.
Yeah.
So
Go
thanks
get
so
that
much
money.
for sharing. Those are amazing resources, and I think relevant for like probably 100 companies that I work with minimum, and definitely something to share. I'm sure the same is true for everyone else, and that's why I was excited to get on this call and to see that this organization was being put together. I think there's so many more times that people would look at organizations that do the same thing, and they lean towards an eye of competitive when collaboration almost always wins in my mind. And I think this is a really good example of that. So two shares. So the first is I help run the New York City Innovation Collective. It is a nonprofit association of about 220 incubators, accelerators, and corporate and university innovation programs. Basically, if you're working with startups, in any kind of innovation programming, you're qualified to be a member. We are organizing a webinar probably on Monday in partnership with the New York City Economic Development Corporation to also share these kinds of resources, but really to create a space, and it's what the collective is for, is to create a space for people to sort of air their concerns and their needs, to share resources they have that they think might be helpful in ways that they can help the community, and also to ask for the things that they need. And we're going to be, sort of gathering all that, capturing it, and sharing it back to city government, state government, and seeing what kind of support we can get, but also so we know how the community feels, so we can sort of represent them as an organization that is working to represent that community. So feel free to share my information with everyone here, please, Bill and Alice. Also happy to be a resource in the way that Francis shared, but if anyone sort of feels they qualify and is interested in coming to that, we're tentatively scheduled for Monday at 2 p.m., but that may change. I stepped off the call a second ago at the beginning of this because the EDC called me back that I have to give them a ring again. The second one is sort of similar, but for governments. So for Daniel and Tomash, there is a new entity being formed that is also an association. I'm involved as a sponsor. They were planning a launch that was going to look a little different than this. It was actually going to be a launch. Now it's just going to be sort of something similar to what I just described, which is getting city government and other reps together. The members of the organization are basically government economic agencies in whatever form they may take, including chambers of commerce that are serving technology companies in New York. And so, bringing them together to understand what their challenges are, what they're doing in the meantime to try to offer services and support to the companies that they represent, and what the city has to be able to support those kinds of initiatives in this challenging time. So if you're interested in that, Tomash, I already have you on my list. Daniel, I think I may have you, but let's make sure to follow up. And if there's anyone else that's relevant to that as well, please let me know. And while I don't think people are looking for ways to spend, but ways to make, eventually things will clean up. And if anyone wants to know like how they can get involved as a sponsor for that org, let me feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
Hi, this is Prashanti.
Hi, Prashanti.
Hi. So I've been listening to what everyone is saying and, what they do, and I'm trying to understand, what they do, and I think I've understood about 50% of what they do. But, I was just thinking that it'll be, I would be a great resource, to this organization simply because, unless people can come into the country and get legal status, nothing is possible. So that's the first step, to be able to, file immigration paperwork. And I work with a lot of companies. I mean, I've been doing this for the last 20 plus years. And I work with a lot of companies to file L1s. And an L1 is pretty much an intra-company transferee where the parent company transfers a senior executive or the owner to the startup in New York or whichever state they're working in. And the good thing about the L1, and I was thinking this is perfect for this, for this community, because the good thing about the L1 is that there's a route to get a green card then and get more permanent status in the United States. So if anyone has any questions about this or the EB-5, which is popular as well, the investor visa, and also the e-visa, which is available for some countries, which is the treaty trader and treaty investor visa, I would be happy to talk to them.
Awesome. Thanks, Prashanthi. So we're getting close to the end, and I do want to just see if there's anything else that feels like a very timely or important resource or opportunity that someone wants to share. Yeah, go ahead, Lance. That'd be great. Thanks.
So I don't know, this isn't granular enough maybe for anybody to act on, but I think it's important regardless of the crisis that's going on. I've been very, very engaged. I'm originally a New Yorker, but I've been in Connecticut for many years, and I've been very engaged in the economic development side. And there are some pretty profound changes that have been proposed to the legislature. I've been speaking highly in opposition of it, but my point is that I've got literally dozens of companies, international companies, that want to initiate, hopefully most of them still want to initiate their North American operations or redirect. But the programs from the state of Connecticut, the proposals at the moment have pulled all grants and all basically forgivable loans, all non-dilutive capital's gone away. And so I'm staggered by it. I'm opposing vehemently to it, but I'm only one voice. So the comment to the group is, I think most people here are from New York, so I'm working with Empire State Development at the moment, looking at some facilities just across the border. And, I don't want to use this. I love Connecticut and it's great, but literally I have dozens of companies that I'd be negligent if I wasn't advising them on the other opportunities for incentives and business assistance. So I'm trying to educate myself very quickly from Empire State and others. But this is really a mind-boggling situation in Connecticut, and now this crisis on top of it is really going to be devastating. So I think there's an opportunity, especially for New Yorkers in there, and that's why I'm here. I'm not looking for clients, at least at the moment. I really want this network to become something profound where I can hand off and trust people that are experts in their business.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Lance. And I think that was a perfect segue to kind of talk about our next meeting. We really hope that this is an opportunity for everyone to have met each other and see each other's faces and get to know each other. But ultimately, the thing that was really motivating for me in terms of wanting to be the New York City, chapter leader is the idea that we really need to know each other, right? We need to kind of know each other and develop an independent and individual trusting relationships so that we can refer to each other, and so Softland partners can be extraordinarily successful. So we will be sharing contact information. If it's something you don't want, you can email me or Bill if you don't want that on this group, but it'll just be for the people who RSVP'd, because we really do want you to have the opportunity to, connect about these issues that are going on, things that you're concerned about, opportunities you have. And it seems like some of you are already identifying connections that could be really valuable. So we encourage you to set up some Zoom coffees for the next few weeks while you're sitting at home and get connected to each other. With that in mind, we're going to have this as a monthly meetup. Bill sent out a doodle poll, and so our next one will be Wednesday, April 15th at 4 p.m., 4 to 5 p.m. And we will kind of be testing a few different times. We want to see if during the day is better for people, or in the evening, or maybe some of you are brave like me and like mornings, so we'll test a few different times and see how this works. But the goal is really to make sure that this is a regular touch point and this becomes a really normal part of all of our lives so that this community can be a thriving one. And we're thrilled to have you here and being a part of it. So you'll get an invitation to our next Zoom meeting on April 15th, unless COVID is lifted by then, and then maybe we'll be considering it in person, which would be delightful. But otherwise it will be a Zoom meeting. And thanks everyone for coming. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say, Bill.
Well, we certainly, I think, want to have open time. So if people want to connect with each other or just continue talking, I think that's great. The other thing I would mention as well is just so you know what the values are in terms of becoming a member. Members have a profile up on the marketplace. they're certainly who we connect to first, just because obviously they're investing in the process and we have more knowledge of them. And then we also have a private Slack channel for member communication. All these needs and opportunities get socialized 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And certainly as we come in person in terms of our meetups, members will have access to the meetups for free. So, and obviously there'll be other values as we go forward, but those are kind of the principal ones. But I would certainly encourage it. It's a super low bar, $100. You probably spend more than that in coffee a month. So, but the goal is really we want a big network. Lance spends it in scotch. So, but there you go, some Stoli, good. But yeah, no, I would really just encourage the one thing having had a business that was actually focused on networking. You know, the one thing I would suggest that is, and Alice very kindly said this, but you know, I would say, you know, it's great that you came to a networking meeting. Networking is what you do after. So networking is as Alice said, grab your cup of coffee, have a Zoom meeting, but and hopefully at some point we can see each other face to face and belly to belly. But it's really, you know, are there 1 or 2 or 3 people that you can set up some coffee time with between now and the next meeting? And that not only is going to be valuable for you, but the more intimacy we build individually, the much more powerful this network will be. And so, you know, us getting familiar with a few actually has an immense value to the network as a whole if we all sort of exercise that muscle. So that would be my encouragement as well. But you know, I would just say, you know, let's open the floor and allow people to drift off and go on to the rest of their evening, or continue to talk just like we would at any networking event. So, but Alice, thank you so much
Thank you, Bill.
all your work, and it's just a delight to be working with you.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
So if anyone wants to say anything, talk amongst each other. We're here to answer any questions as well. So whatever works for you, or we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
I don't like to drink alone, so.
You what?
Lance,
What'd you say?
Lance needs a
I don't
refill
like
break.
to drink alone.
Yeah.
I'm drinking Corona, so you know, I couldn't find a COVID-19 beer, so I had to drink Corona instead.
I also love how it feels like we're the Brady Bunch, you know.
Hollywood Squares.
Yeah.
For all the old people out there.
Exactly.
So my one question was, like, some of the resources that were shared are really valuable. Are sort of points like that, links to that kind of information, going to get shared out in an email?
Yeah.
I was just curious what the follow-up was.
Yeah, I took notes, so I'll type it up and share it with Alice, and I'm sure she'll have a few things to add to it. So and then we'll get it out the next day or so.
So Brian, if you want to send us links to the 2 things you mentioned, that would be great, and we'll include those in the email follow-up to everybody.
Great.
That would be
Will do.
fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for putting this together, everyone, and everyone for joining. I really got value out of it and appreciate it.
I'm so excited. There was such a good turnout on the Zoom call. I was afraid everyone would cancel tonight, so I'm so thrilled you guys all
Are
came.
you kidding? Alice, I'm going to be totally selfish, and I'm going to say, listen, you need to do these, you know, not just belly to belly, but virtual. Yeah. I can't get to New York every month.
We need to start one in Puerto Rico.
The fact that we're like on lockdown here. It's like we're on full quarantine. I can't even leave my house.
So are we. But we'll come to Puerto Rico. It's really not a problem.
Listen, I can host a huge party, big time.
So here's actually Susan.
Yeah.
Susan, who didn't get to introduce herself, I apologize, but she has the funniest post on our chat. When we mentioned the cost of joining Softland Partners, she said, "I'd pay that much for TP." I love it. That is the best. Susan, are you still on the call?
I am.
You want to introduce yourself? You didn't get a chance to. We all did 30-second intros.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Susan Linder. I'm the innovation storyteller. So for the last 20 years, I have worked with international startups and Fortune 500 companies, helping chief innovation officers, product managers, and entrepreneurs to better tell their stories of innovation to get the resources, runway, and recognition they deserve.
Nice.
Fantastic.
I love how concise and specific your pitch is.
I've got a very narrow lane and I intend to stay in it.
She's a storyteller, right?
If you're a messaging expert, you better be able to keep it tight.
That is my job. I take big ideas
So
and make them really small to fit into our tiny little brains.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Especially at 7 at night or 8 at night. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bill, you're going to share email addresses and send out a spreadsheet, or
I'm opt-in. Share my stuff, please.
Okay. Anyone have a problem with that? Just let us know. But we'll give it 24 hours and then we'll share out the list. I don't know that that'll be a practice long term. I think we want to obviously preserve that information for folks that are in the group. But certainly we certainly want to build a lot of goodwill right now. So let's do that and get people connected.
Yeah, Susan.
And I also want to just quickly share one of the things that our team is thinking about is because, we're always supporting these international companies, these startups that are coming from abroad, and they're going to have very unique challenges over the next couple months. And our team has been thinking a lot about what are the things that they need most now, and how, as the people that we are, as their financial situations change, et cetera, do we best support them where they're at and what their needs are. So if anyone at another point wants to chat or brainstorm or talk about some of those topics, I'm happy to have that conversation, because our businesses are affected, I'm sure, but so is every business in the world right now. So the more that we can do to support the entire international community of companies, the better it is for everyone.
Sure.
Cool.
So just a quick follow-up, if I can interject. So I wasn't going to ask, I was going to ask Francis offline, but because Susan said something similar, you're involved in startups, there's a heavy presence in startups, but also then there's a jump to Fortune 500 or the big names, the Googles of the world. And so I'm just curious, and maybe it's not relevant for everyone, but my focus tends to be in lower middle market and maybe middle market, depending how we define it. So I actually don't love the startup phase. It's a lot of work with little rewards, so I tend to hand those off. But I don't jump right to the corporate. So I'm just wondering, do you also address sort of the lower middle market, or is that, or anybody here, does anybody address whatever lower middle market or middle market, whatever we would define, 5 to 200 million maybe in revenue?
Yeah, that's where we aim. So I would call them scale ups.
Yeah, it's mostly scale-ups that we work with. Most of them are making at least 3 million in revenue plus. So we call them startups still because they're around Series A, Series B, but they are more growth stage scale-ups than early. We have some early stage as well, but most of them are growth stage.
Yeah.
Got it.
And Lance, I too work in that market. I would say most of our clients are between 2 and 50 million in revenue, and probably 5 and 75 in terms of employee headcount globally.
Yeah, same here. Okay, thanks.
Cool. What other?
That's a big leap to go to corporate. The Google of the world.
That was
a different
that
animal.
was a very,
I stay away from the Googles and the BMWs.
It was a very
Corporates love startups and have no idea how to work with them. So it's that's the natural fit.
That's a good point. Yeah.
They like each other. It's just a matter of facilitating those connections in meaningful ways.
Yeah.
Bill, what was
the startups are the R&D, in my world at least, advanced manufacturing. The large companies don't really do their own R&D anymore, like the Bell Labs. So they're buying this acquisition strategy to get the innovation into their larger companies. So that's the bridge for me, but sometimes it's a big bridge. So middle market is probably the easier, if that makes sense to anybody.
It was nice to virtually meet you all. I look forward to meeting you all in person soon.
That's great. Thanks, Jackie.
Have a great trip back from San Francisco.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Did I hear Jeff start to say something?
Yeah, Bill, what was the term that you used to describe your customers? Broken children, something children?
Damaged children.
Damaged children.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that is our distinct experience. Especially again, companies who are coming into the United States don't really understand the nuances of marketing to the U.S. market, and we spend, I don't know, a fair amount of time talking people in off the ledge and then unwinding all the bad habits, and it makes our job harder. One thing that happened to me yesterday is kind of an interesting, and it may be a resource for you, but being in the marketing space, and Susan, I definitely want to connect with you. So when I get this list, you'll be one of the first people I reach out to. But I was supposed to do a live speaking engagement, which of course became virtual. And then about 2 hours before the event, the person running it actually asked me to not speak about the topic we had been set up, and to please, if I thought I was able to talk more around standards and best practices on how to be communicating with people, prospects, new clients, existing clients. Now, it's different than the way you would have spoken to a sales prospect a week ago.
Yeah.
Right? The frequency, the tone, all of that needs to change. And so I'm like, yeah, sure, I can speak about that. I'm as qualified as anybody, right?
Yeah.
But
I look forward to talking with you. I'm a former epidemiologist at the Centers for Disease Control in the New York City Department of Health.
Great.
Before getting into the wild world of marketing.
Then maybe we'll stay virtual. But yeah, it's just so if somebody needs to speak on marketing during stressful times or whatever you want to, we can be a resource for that.
Amazing.
It's kind of a unique opportunity, and some people just really don't know how to communicate with their constituency, client base, whatever. There's some circumstances where I guess delicate is the word that comes to mind. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point. Every single sales email I've gotten that doesn't have any sort of sensitivity to what's going on in the world, I'm just like, who do they think they are just sending a sales email right now? What?
It's kind of shocking.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like this is a local problem, right?
Just get in there.
Yeah.
Well, that's
business must go on. People got to make payroll. People are shitting their pants about all this.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so
it's not just how to communicate to them. I think for people, especially in our business, has my product changed and has my market changed completely, right? If I'm targeting companies that are moving over here, now I have to reevaluate what I can do for the next 3 to 6 to question mark months to make money. What are the assets we have? What are the resources we can provide, and who needs them? Like that's a big analysis we did last Friday and pivoted everything that we offer.
And I am finding too, like Francis, that, it's interesting because there's a lot of people who I think are, who are really trying to pivot and take advantage of this. But I think they're not necessarily I think, like me, right? You want to make payroll, you want to keep all your employees, you're having this moment that feels scary, but your marketing can't be that way. Talking to what Jeff and Susan were just saying, I got an email yesterday that literally said, how to profit in the time of coronavirus, join our free webinar. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to really make anybody feel like they want to come. Like, it was very
I need to go take a shower now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be empathetic. It's got to acknowledge what's happening, but also have some level of empathy, because everyone's going through a hard time, but business still has to go on, but also in a sensitive way. It's very delicate. It's a unique moment, because I don't think the world has ever in our lifetimes experienced something like this.
Yeah.
You could literally just change that to one of the opportunity in the time of crisis and not sound like a dick.
Yeah. I'm writing that down as my motto. Don't sound like a dick.
Step one.
I repeat it to myself. It's a mantra. Every 5 minutes I have to say it to myself.
I like that.
When there's not an epidemic, Brian, good call.
This is every day. This has just become more helpful in this time.
Yeah.
I like Brian. Brian, you got to remove that you're gonna move the backdrop. I want to see what's behind there. I see little kids running around.
The kids happen to be.
But I wanted to say, like, I have the virtue of being a very old guy in this and lived through. And what I've talked to several clients the past couple of days, and we all know this. It's hard to stick with it. But if you've got clients, especially the international ones, that are thinking about setting up here, and they've been that far along that they've actually got plans and they've started, there's no better argument to say follow through. I don't care. Like, even if this lags on for 18 months, it's still take the time now to do it. It's actually a better time to do it. And so I've had these very serious discussions, whether it's financially right or wrong for me. I tell the clients those that do the right things and emerge from this in a stronger way are going to absolutely be in a better position. To hold off now for an international soft land is absolutely the worst thing anybody could do. So that's my old man advice for anybody, because I've lived through it several times. How many crises have we been through? So I feel strongly, press on.
We got our first contract today for the June program, which shocked me because I'm like, I can't imagine that the companies are already, they're still planning on coming for June. So
that's amazing. That's so great.
Yeah, but we're excited, but I'm also like, can we get more? I don't know. We don't know yet.
Optimistic entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I love that entrepreneurs. So, but I have to go pop off and make dinner. But it has been lovely being with you all tonight.
What are we having?
We'll be right over.
Chicken, quinoa, and broccoli. So
very healthy. I like it.
Brilliant.
It's good.
Bon appetit
for you.
Bye, all.
Bye.
I should do the same. Everybody's been amazing. This was, for me, it was great. I didn't know how it would work, but Bill's fantastic. Everyone was great, and I look forward to meeting everyone in person at some point, or at least continuing this. So thanks, everyone.
Take care,
Hey,
Lance.
just Lance, in case you didn't see it, I sent you in the chat. I may have a connection or two for you for New York for the economic development folks. So ping me on that.
The city, or do you have any Westchester or Putnam?
Well, we could connect to them, but also the state.
Yeah, they tend to break it down by region, so I'll take either. But yeah, it's pretty serious at the moment.
Okay.
I'll talk to you offline about Connecticut, or you can look at my
Go
LinkedIn.
refill your glass. Go refill your glass. We'll talk later.
Yeah, eat some
Yeah,
dinner.
that's a good idea. Thanks, everybody.
Lance is drinking his dinner tonight.
There we go.
All right, I gotta go as well. I gotta put
I gotta
some
put
some kids to bed.
Thanks,
thanks so much, everyone. I really appreciate
All
it.
right.
Thanks,
All right.
folks.
All right. Well,
Bye, you guys.
thank you. Have a good night.
you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Take care. Be well.
Stay healthy.
Night.
Bye, guys. Thank you, Alice. Thanks, Bill.
Oh,
You
my
got it.
pleasure. Take care, Jeff.
Bye now.
And Linda, we'll definitely keep some virtual options, I think. Bill and I will talk about how to make sure we have some, because I think it's even good for people inter-chapter to meet. So
yeah, well, we can talk offline. There's a couple of things that could be kind of interesting. There's a bunch of startup stuff that's going on here. I can see, I mean, our companies are much smaller, but there's a lot of companies that should be exporting that are not.
Yeah.
But the companies that are coming from overseas are using a lot of the incentives in Puerto Rico as a jumping off point. So we can talk about it.
sounds great. Amazing, Linda. Thanks. Have a good night.
All right, bye.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks, Bill. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Thanks, Alice.